Started. Hi everybody, my name is Taylor and I'm excited to be here with you to talk about maybe a big conversation that's happening with all of us in our schools, and it's something that I will just preface now by saying I don't have all the answers, but hopefully that through this conversation, discussion, and kind of activities we can figure out, at least move a little bit forward in what we are doing as far as an AI policy. So I want to start off with a little illustration. And in this illustration, the leadership, i.e. us, is going to be represented by the guy in the video. And he's saying, well, it's a golf. He's playing golf. And he's trying to teach us in this video, he's trying to teach us how to hit the perfect shot to land on the green to put it into the hole. Okay, so that's us. We are trying to create an AI policy that can cover the use, protect the kids, protect the integrity of what we're doing in the classroom, and things like that. There's another chair right here. Do you need one? And then the golf ball in the video is the AI. Okay? So just to preface, we are the instructor trying to teach how to do the golf shot. The golf ball is the AI. So here we go.
I'm autistic superpower like being good at golf. People like to ask me, how do I get better? It's very simple. You got to leave yourself makeable par putts if you miss the green. I know exactly how far back to take my club to hit it a certain distance. I'm 10 yards out, so I'm just going to bring the club my 10-yard distance. Here we go. Let's leave ourselves a 1 to 5 foot makeable par putt here. Simple. Okay, so this par putt, pickles. I didn't mean to make that. Okay, we're going to leave ourselves a 1 to 5 foot makeable par putt. Okay, get that ball on the ground. Now when it stops, our par putt, pickles, that's too close, I'm going to make most of those. So let's go 66 yards out, let's leave ourselves a makeable par putt. Alright, good. I stop short of the hole, just roll out, trickle pretty close. Pickles, 150 yards. There we go. That should stop short of the hole, maybe trickle out just a little bit. Pickles, 50 yards out, let's leave ourselves a nice makeable par putt. Alright, that was pretty simple. Now when that lands on the green, I'm going to be left with a par putt. I've been using the Lab Golf putter lately. Now when I try to visualize my hand path, please don't go in. Pickles!
Okay, so thinking about how we do an AI policy, we have the best intentions. We're trying to say, look, all we're wanting to do is have it land on the green and sit for the putt. And AI says, yeah, but watch this. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep expanding. And so that's why when we come into today, and the purpose of today, our problem that we're going to solve today, or try to at least work through, solving is too big of a word. We're going to try and work through this a little bit, is AI too big for an acceptable use policy? Okay. Is it too big for what our traditional acceptable use policies do? So, thinking about this, I want to take a second, just around your tables, very briefly, 2 minutes, or partners in the back, just share, what is your current acceptable or AI policy that you have at your schools, if you have something, okay? Real quick, 2 minutes, go. Back forward. How many of you shared that? I heard someone up here say, I can define our AI policy in one word. We don't. How many of you don't have one at your school? Okay. How many of you have one that you just kind of have written into your acceptable use policy? Like you have your acceptable use, your technology policy, you've kind of slid some wordage in there as well. I heard you have one that you worked on though for a long time. It took, how long?
We started it beginning of last school year, so August 23. We shared the first draft with parents February, March time of that year, and then really it was published by the end. So it was the whole school year really as a process.
Okay.
And it's out of date already now.
And it's out of date already. That's what I was going to say. And then it's already out of date after a year and plus of work. So again, getting into this, it's something that, back to that question, is AI too big for an acceptable use policy? Well, it's possible. This is a draft policy, and I want to spend time, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but what I did was I took this draft policy, and this is, I would say, very limited one. This is a section that's added to a technology use policy, right? It's got some good things in there, but some of it kind of outdated. It's too general. It's too generic in what we're trying to accomplish. But I went in and I asked ChatGPT. I said, pull all the negative words out of it, because when you think about an acceptable use policy, and it's traditionally defined, hey, we're putting a limit on whatever the technology is, right? When we rolled one-to-one 10 years ago, we're saying, here's our technology policy. Here's all of the things you can't do. Here's all of the things on the Wi-Fi that we filter so that you can't do them. And then all of the cans were really under the teacher's guise to say, okay, here's what we can do in class. And so you had really great teachers you had teachers that were more innovative that could say, hey, this is what we're going to be able to do. And there were others that were maybe not as well-versed, not as confident, that would say, well, but we're not going to really do that, right? And so they kind of started to create this divide. And so when we think about an AI policy and how that gets to be formed, what are we supposed to do? It gets outdated. It changes so quickly. There's a great book called Co-Intelligence. I don't know if any of you have read it, but I love this quote. Traditional software is predictable, reliable, and it follows a strict set of rules. My Google Doc will do the same thing every time I ask it to do the same thing every time. When properly built and debugged, software yields the same outcomes. AI, on the other hand, is anything but predictable and reliable. It can surprise us with novel solutions, forget its own abilities, and hallucinate incorrect answers. So if we have something that's like water, that's fluid, that's constantly changing and moving, how can we don't have the big enough glass in that acceptable use policy to hold it into place and say, this is what we're trying to accomplish. So today, back to that question, is it too big? I wanted to talk about and kind of unpack ways to think about an acceptable use policy, or really what I like to call an AI opportunity policy. And doing 3 different steps to kind of brainstorm this. Again, we're not walking away with solutions here. We're walking away with conversations and with ideas to be able to think through it. So the first step is to reframe our conversation, right? We all experienced it. AI comes out, and the first thing is, everybody's cheating. Everybody's cheating. My essays are cheating. Everything's done. Well, we know now that that's not the fact, but that it is possible, but there's more that can be done rather than just turning it off, banning it, taking it away. So what I want to do first, we need to reframe our conversation about, and why isn't that, did it load? Oh, it loaded on here. Okay. I call it divine interaction. This was posted today from Dr. John Spencer. I had another diagram up here that I was going to use from Matt Miller about AI and how to use it, but Dr. Spencer just posted this morning. I listened to the podcast and I was like, oh, this is what I need to put into my presentation. So what I want to do is I want you to just discuss the state. Now, if you're a tech coach, a tech innovator, a curriculum coordinator, a teacher, it doesn't matter. You're here and you are a leader in what you're doing in your school in some form or fashion to be able to be in this conversation. And so at your table, I want you just to discuss, where are you on this spectrum? Over here we've got the AI resistant, right? We're not doing any of it. And over here we've got this AI driven. In the podcast, Spencer kind of mentions how it very mirrors kind of the Sammer model just a little bit, right? Substitution versus redefinition. But there's that added element of, well, but it's so much bigger than that. So I want to give you maybe 4 minutes, just at your table, talk about where your school might fit in this spectrum. Okay, go for it. Okay. Let's bring it back together here, and kind of set you up. Because, and there's lots of good conversation, and I heard what I was looking for in what you were saying, but I kind of set you up because by having you have this conversation about where your school fits, I'm putting you under a traditional acceptable use policy mindset of saying we can only fit in one place. But someone over here said, well, it just depends on the day. It depends on the time. It depends on the kid. It depends on the teacher. And it's absolutely correct that maybe it's not about where you are on this structure, but when you are where you're at on this structure, on this spectrum, right? Because in some cases, we need to be here. We need to keep that human-centered, those skills, right? The best use of AI is when you have expertise and understanding of the content. It's not something that's going to make something new. It's responding to you and how you use it. So we have to be here, but then as well, we can move and ebb and flow through this process and how we use it. So as we come into this discussion of creating this acceptable use policy, this AI opportunity policy, how are we framing the discussions to say, well, where are we on any given lesson or any given moment, or down to any given kid, if that's the structure of your school and where it's at. So reframing the conversation of how we're doing it. The next step, rework the approach, and having the opportunity to rethink what's already been done and how it's been done, right? The Sammer model told us that there are ways that technology can redefine what we're doing in the classroom. And so what do? Well, again, working with AI, we have to be an expert in something. So Picasso said, learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist, right? We have to be great teachers in order to understand what maybe the best ways to integrate these tools into our classes. We have to be an expert at the content in order to know what we're getting back from the AI to utilize in our classes in the best way. So here's the next activity that we're going to do. I want you to be able to give you the permission to say, hey, anything goes. Because if we're reframing the structure of how we approach this and we're looking into reworking our approach, we have to get a little dangerous and we have to think about what if. It's not a yes AI, no AI conversation. It's more of a AI is here. When and how are we going to support and train our students and at what age? What's the process over time that we are empowering and building up our kids that we can then decide on? Do we start in second grade? When do they get the iPads? Maybe we should start when they get the iPads. Where is AI integrated into what you're doing every day? So what I want to do for the next, we'll say 7 minutes, is you can go to this URL here, and that is missing an I, so I'll slide that over. Or use the QR code to a Padlet. And I've got grade levels, K2, 3, 5, middle school, and high school. I want you to brainstorm age-appropriate uses of AI by grade level, but think about what it could be, not what it is, right? You might be doing some great stuff. I put an example in there as far as an app that's called Snorkel. Another example would be I had a conversation with a teacher recently who is a third grade writing teacher, and he talked about here's how I use AI with my third graders. First, they write their paragraph, their essay by hand. Then they type it and put it into the AI to get initial feedback from the AI. Then they come back to me and they explain, here was my original, here were the suggestions, and here is how I've changed my writing. And then they come back and they do their final draft along the way, right? Being able to use it in an appropriate way of saying this is a tool that's helping me through the process, not just doing it for me. So think about that, add ideas, jot it down there. We'll do about 7 minutes or 6 minutes, and then we will keep moving forward with this. And feel free to discuss too and share at your tables what you're putting down for different grade levels and different ideas. All right, I'd love to have some of you share kind of what you posted into the Padlet and some ideas. Let's start with kind of the younger ones, the K-2s. Ideas for bringing AI into a K-2 classroom in an appropriate way that supports and trains up the kids. See a couple of posts in there. We share. Sure. Yeah.
So the Canva one is mine. So like just experimenting with what's possible. We use it as a tool for kind of helping them understand that there is misinformation around and how easy it is to produce now, and they get all excited that they've just made a new species of bird or whatever, and then they're like, oh, I'm going to tell everyone I saw this, and then then you have the conversation. Should you tell everyone you saw this bird? It's a good introduction to critical thinking.
Yeah. Okay. Being very, very dedicated to the conversation that comes from the image creation, not just make a new species of bird. Any other ideas around K to 2? The nice thing about this is that in all of these, I think that it's not about one structure of this is the only way it can be done in K to 2, but that it's about the teacher, it's about the assignment, it's about the teaching, the pedagogy that we're doing and how we're integrating the AI to support that, right? While building those skills. What about upper elementary, grades 3 to 5? Some of the ideas that were posted there. See, Magic School, School AI, using chatbots, and that also is in the K to 2, right? Using one of these dedicated platforms that has a little bit more control over how your AI chatbot is being used, and you can monitor the results of what the conversation is that's being had. So that's a really neat one as far as with like in School AI, I can create a chatbot, I can prompt it to how I want it, and then I can see my students' conversations with the chatbot to be able to then monitor and move forward, use that data to support what we're doing.
So managing, I guess, some of the age restrictions at that point as you reach up upper elementary into secondary, lower, it's dealing with 13s on a lot of the tools.
Right.
These tools help with.
Right. Yeah. And being in yesterday, if you go see Ken and Dee do their presentations today, I was in the session yesterday, and all the ethical stuff and the terms of use and everything like that is just, I had to go sit and just let it marinate, because that's a whole nother level of understanding and how we're using it, that we can't just throw these tools at the kids or use them without being properly informed on what is being collected from them, but then also what other elements are there that we need to help guide the students through bias and things like that. So other ideas now for secondary school. I see some repeats, Canva, chatbots, things like that. Generate different math problems. In the co-intelligence book, I think it is that one. He described a scenario where, now he was talking about professionals coming into the workforce, 2 architects, and one architect came out and he had a weekly meeting with a mentor that gave feedback on the project and their direction and what they were doing. The other architect had a daily routine of discussing projects, plans, ideas with a specific AI chatbot, an AI mentor. Now, I'm not advocating the replacement of both, but the potential there is that over time, what was seen is the one that had the daily routine of feedback improved, right? As that would go, if we gave our students daily feedback into what they were doing every day, they would continue to improve. So thinking about that, how can we utilize, or what could be done to utilize that to be able to support kids feedback-wise, to support teachers feedback-wise, right? Because this is where it goes beyond the students. Now, how do we dabble in this for our teachers? How do we use this to support them along the way? That leads me to the next step, which is revitalizing professional development. One of the hats that I wear at my school at ICS here in Hong Kong is I'm coordinator of professional development. So I'm the one that's kind of trying to organize the professional development days, but my other thought is I want to help teachers be prepared for what's next. And so how do we revitalize professional development knowing that we don't have an acceptable use policy that covers AI? So we need to have the people on the front lines well trained and ready to utilize this in an effective manner. And so how do we do that? What are some ways to do that? So in her book, the PD book, Elena Aguilar says transformation is just not just about doing something different, but also about unpacking the mindsets connected to the actions. Whenever there's a change that is made in the school, the first reaction generally is fear and how is this going to mess with me and what I'm doing, right? So you come in with a new policy on AI, you come in with a new AI tool, generally everyone might just be a little hesitant, right? The important part about this is time. Whether it was doing technology in the classroom or now bringing AI in, we have to be able to give time to reframe the thinking. Trying to think about activities on the fly that could be impacted by AI is kind of hard. It needs time to test, to try, and to push again. So allowing for more professional development focus on effective ways that your school wants to encourage teachers in their use of AI. Another quote from Adam Grant: the purpose of learning isn't to affirm our beliefs, it's to evolve our beliefs, right? We can teach. We are good teachers. We understand how to teach. Now we're going to say we can teach, and we have these tools to support us, and we have these abilities to support us, and we have this spectrum of how we can use AI in a space that gives me the creative freedom to do what I was hired to do, to be the expert, to care about the kids, to have that human-centered AI focus in what I'm doing. So what are some things then to encourage this creativity? Because a lot of times it's very kind of a top-down response, right? So this is my second stint in Hong Kong, my second year, okay? So I was in Hong Kong at the same school until about 2017, and then my family and I left and we went to Texas. And I worked as coordinator of innovative learning for a school district in Fort Worth. And it was a different world compared to my little international school here in Texas. I went from 1,200 students to 25,000 students. And I went from 120 faculty members to 1,800 faculty members over 31 schools. So, and that was small in Texas terms. So it was just a huge culture shock in that sense. But a lot of the decisions that were made, because of the nature of public school, because of the nature of politics and all those other things, it wasn't a simple, hey, we found this new thing, let's just go try it. It was, hey, here's this new process or this new strategy or this new tool. I'd like to put it into motion. And then it took a year, 6 months, getting a beta testing team, getting feedback from people, seeing how they approve so that you could cover yourself. And so when it's the process of learning, the biggest process of learning is unlearning, right? That we're coming in to say, this is how I was taught how to teach math 12 years ago. But here I am 12 years later, and I have to relearn how to teach math again. The acceptable use policy that we wrote last year, we have to rewrite it because it's outdated. We have to create that fluid motion in our professional development, what we're doing. So ultimately, where we're at right now then with professional learning is creativity. Creativity, testing, and making a lot of mistakes, right? Harnessing our magic school bus mentality and Miss Frizzle from back in the day. So some ideas, again, and these are not answers. But from your administration down to your assistant, everyone should be learning this. It should not just be, the professional development should not just be tech coach to teachers. It has to be that we are all going through this process together. There's too much out there to say we're going to learn everything. So if there's one space, one vision that your school is focusing on, then be focused on that. I had heard from another tech director, that they had invested in one of these AI tools. And there was, in the time of investing, a year goes by, there's 12 others that do just the same, if not other cool things. And he said, no, we've got to just get good at this one. And we're going to run it for our I think he said 2 years, and then we'll reevaluate and see, is this where we want to be or should we move somewhere else, right? Being intentional about getting good at the skill. The nice part is about the AI within these tools is generally prompting and working with it, and the conversational aspect of the AI is the same. It's just you're getting it through different windows as you go. The learning environment to test, to be able to deconstruct what we're doing and to rebuild what we're doing, right? So thinking about that spectrum as far as having that conversation, creating an environment that it's safe for a teacher to say, this one, I want to keep paper and pencil, but this one, I just want to go crazy with. I want to see what could happen if we bring something in. I just saw this tool, this idea. Transparency. Transparency from the top down. What is the vision? What is the plan for this? And not transparency in a document. That's the whole point of this. There's no document that can hold what the AI is doing because a policy writer is not on the front lines testing out the chatbots and the strategies and the tools that the kids are interacting with. So the transparency has to go from all directions, allowing and creating an opportunity for teachers to be able to speak into this and say, hey, I tried Magic School, I tried this in Magic School, this is what went really well, and then it hallucinated and it made a really funny joke in the class. And this is what I learned from that. We need to bring that into the space and create a community of learning rather than a community that follows a policy of what we can and cannot do. Okay? Some other ideas, especially thinking about AI event or professional development events, do an AI-a-thon, right? Challenge your teachers to develop a new idea that wasn't previously possible without AI. I was watching, or I was on Instagram, and there was an AI debate. Oh, and I forget her name. Not Birkenstock, but she was on CBS News in the States. And they were debating, should AI be in school and how is it cheating and whatnot. And she described how she worked with a group of high school students and challenged them to write the essay, but only through prompting an AI. They could not touch the words that the AI was writing. They had to just do it through prompt writing. Critical thinking, discussing with the AI, correcting and having that conversation about the essay. And the argument was, well, they can just copy and paste it. Yes, you're absolutely right. A student can put in the prompt for the essay, put it into AI, copy and paste it and be done, and it's completely just blah. There's no learning prospect.
It's Amanda Bickerstaff.
Amanda Bickerstaff, thank you. Yes, Bickerstaff. But she said it took these girls a week to write that essay with only the AI, right? Flipping it on its back and thinking, well, what could we do that's different? There's another one, I think, in one of the books that I read where the teacher actually had the AI write the essay. And then they handed it to the students, and the responsibility of the students wasn't to write an essay. It was to correct, critique, and comment on the essay as a peer evaluator. Still testing, do you understand the content? Do you know what you are supposed to know? But instead of having to write it, you're correcting it and finding those errors and finding those spaces. So thinking about that, harnessing the creativity of the teachers in your hallways and allowing for them to just come up with anything and everything, right? Thinking about the other part of this, the other side of this is that digital citizenship, the ethical uses of AI, and really how are you controlling that narrative? Building that up into the spaces of your classrooms, building that up in the communication of your parents. It's more than that. And share what's happening in the school. I think that's something that it needs to be continuing to happen. As a parent, it's so fun to be able to get those updates on Seesaw to see what my kids are building or what they're doing, and the little videos of them in their Mandarin classes, they're having practicing conversations. Well, to be able to promote that within your schools and to control the narrative to say, hey, look at this incredible thing that we were able to do, collaborating within AI and all these other things, it calms down that fear of AI, right? And it's, again, at no point in this am I saying, hey, it's an AI free-for-all, just go, just do. It's all within intentional design. It's all within focused direction, within your vision, within your standards, within your scope and sequence of what you're trying to do. So then, coming back, is AI too big for an acceptable use policy? Yes. It's something that I don't think we know how to define or figure out yet. And that answer is not going to come this weekend at the conference, and it's not going to come tomorrow, right? If we look at history, one of the biggest comparisons that you hear in podcasts and you read it in blog posts and all over the place is like, well, it's just like when the calculator came. It's just like when the calculator came, right? It flipped math on its head when the calculator came out, right? But here's the thing that I find really interesting that I had read about, and I was like, oh, I got to share this, is the timing of the calculator, right? So the calculator, in the mid-1970s, the popularity started to get out there of, hey, this could be used in school. Could be pretty helpful. And there was two sides. Yeah, let's do it. 72% of teachers at that time said, absolutely not. No, thank you. Don't want it. Don't need it. Math is good as math. Don't give me that calculator. That conversation in the 70s started to shift, right? 84% of teachers said, yeah, we want to try. We're interested, but of that 84%, only 3% had access to calculators to even try. So now we've got that group of innovators that are trying, the early adopters and the innovators saying, hey, we're going to try it. We're going to see how it goes, right? Was the answer found then for the calculator? No. We traveled through the 80s and 90s where this debate was still happening. Is the calculator right for math class? Is it not right? What are we supposed to do? Let's make a decision. Jumping into the 90s, now a practical consensus was achieved. Something that we kind of had came to a consensus here with AI, that there are times when the calculator is going to be valuable and needed. And there are times where it's just not going to be needed at all. A balance, an intentional design balance where calculators can actually help what we're doing and deepen the learning of what students are trying to accomplish. So my point is that we just have to keep going. That it took almost 20 years to get a calculator into a space where it was usable. And here we are in year 2 of AI. And in that 2-year span, it's grown and multiplied exponentially, and it still is. And so we just have to keep going. That our job should not be, it's never going to be a yes or a no. It's a here it is. What are we going to do about it? Because there's times when we don't need it. When we can do the teaching, we can do the learning in an effective and a powerful way. And then there's times when we're going to want it. And we're going to want to challenge ourselves to think about it because it's going to give us the opportunities that we never thought we could do with our kids in the classroom before. So today was never going to be about solving the problem is AI too big for an acceptable use, but hopefully we've talked about some areas that could help you in framing your next steps along the way with that. So my name is Taylor. I work for the International Christian School here in Hong Kong. I also work for Moreland University. If you've heard of Moreland, it is a teacher certification university. I am an instructor. I do the certification program, and I also am an instructor for the Masters of Educational Technology. Up here I've put some of the book suggestions that I enjoy, and then I'm a big board gamer, and my kids and I, and those are our 2 top games that we like to play right now. I appreciate your time today. I appreciate your participation and conversation that you had. Here's the link to this presentation, or you can scan it here. I'd love to connect on LinkedIn. And if you have other questions about Moreland or anything else like that, I'm happy to discuss with you. We're about 15 minutes early, so we can get in front of the lunch line. And, that's the important thing, right? So thank you guys so much. Appreciate you. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you so much.